question comes from a young lady who says, I recently lost my virginity. I slightly bled and it was extremely painful. I believe I had a tear. What should I do?
Oh, yeah. So I think that I would want to normalize that it is very normal that when, the tissue that around the vaginal area is very sensitive, and that it is normal for there to be some bleeding. I would say that kind of tearing is not normal,
Mm.
and that maybe that's an indicator that something was going on. And so pain is always like a red light in sexuality. And so if there's intense pain or if there's like tearing, then I would say wanting to say, hey, something is going on that is not a normal kind of sexual experience, in the sense of that is just like what it is. And so, kind of deal with it. But to be able to troubleshoot of, okay, something is going on. Either your body was not aroused and was not like ready for entry, and which can happen a lot, that the body has to be ready into a point where there's vasocongestion, which means blood has is flowing in that area and is creating like an ability to receive intercourse. And sometimes not knowing like what that feels like or what to be looking for can cause entry to happen before a point that the body is really ready. And so I think I would really want to troubleshoot and talk through that, but really let her know, like, okay, so glad you're reaching out. So glad that you're not just keeping this inside and being like, okay, I guess that was just like, just what,
Normal.
yeah, that's just what I need to deal with. And hopefully it'll be better next time, right? Anytime sex is painful, it's like, okay, we do not push through the pain.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that you said that pain in sexuality is a red light, because I think, especially in women, I think that we grow up believing that sex is supposed to be painful, or that it's going to be painful at the beginning. And there's always that, when you're talking about the wedding night, your friends are like, are you scared? Are you nervous? You scared it's going to hurt? Like I feel like we have normalized it being painful to the point where maybe we just expect it when we lose virginity.
Yes, yes. And I think I would want her to know that it's a normal experience to have because of what you're saying. Because
Right.
it's become like a norm that I've just like expect it to be this way, and just keep doing it and eventually it will get better. Just keep practicing, push through the pain, and eventually it will get better. Sometimes it does. Sometimes there's a natural, like intuitive sense that a couple can have as they're learning sexuality. And for those couples, it doesn't become a chronic problem. But I think I would whenever you push through the pain, there's a danger of pairing negative emotion
Mm.
with your sexuality.
Yeah, that's so true.
And the body is wired to protect you from painful experiences. So that can create a trigger of sexuality being a trigger that your body is like, oh, something painful, something bad is coming.
Right.
The reflex that I'm so glad she's reaching out, because I don't want that to happen to her. And I think I'm so glad she's speaking out about this so that a lot of women out there can know, hey, sex isn't normal. If you're having sex and it's painful, reach out. It's a red light. Don't push through pain.
Yeah, just because pain is common doesn't mean that's the way it's supposed to be. Sex is supposed to be a good experience that feels good, bodily, emotionally, spiritually. Like sex is supposed to be a good experience, and that for both partners, both folks involved in the experience. And if it's not, something's not right. Something's off. And I think, Tori, like you were saying, and Tish, that it's exceedingly common for there to be, a first experience to be painful and be negative. But that doesn't mean that it's the way it has to be. That for the reasons that Tish listed out, oftentimes that are related to just not a lot of good education about sex and about body and what to expect and how to navigate that, causes that to be reinforced and causes that to happen again and again. And so I just love the question, love the hopefully those that can hear this that are, maybe, haven't had that first sexual experience, maybe they're engaged, maybe they're, headed towards their wedding night, and kind of have all of these pieces of information out there to be able to know that, hey, it doesn't have to be like that. And things like lube is really wonderful for your wedding night, because it's common for you to be anxious and to not lubricate like you might otherwise in an established sexual relationship. It'd be okay not to have intercourse, that we can have fun sexually and not have intercourse to be on our wedding night. We can still enjoy each other's body and get comfortable.
Right, that it's okay, that we can normalize taking our time with something that is such a huge change.
Yeah, that rush is really where a lot of that pain can happen, because there's anxiety, and anxiety can shut down arousal, which causes the body to not get prepared for intercourse. And so all of that anxiety, all the nerves, all the first time kind of fears can actually set the body up to have not a good experience. Whereas if we take that pressure off of ourselves, we really create space to be able to enjoy the experience and ease our way into intercourse in a way that doesn't have to be painful.
Yeah, for sure. Tish, kind of, would you respond any other way with that, with what Josh just said?
Yeah, I think I feel like there can be this like pressure of like, if we start and we don't finish, like something terrible is going to happen.
Right.
Sex life will be cursed for a dozen years, or something like that.
But I think that is like this pressure that couples can put on themselves, of like that, even for women to experience an erection as pressure of, oh, if he's turned on, if he's aroused, like there can be, I've heard my clients say this, like, I'm responsible for that. There's something like this pressure that can be felt of like, okay, if we begin to sexually engage, then it has to progress and it has to result in this outcome.
Intercourse specifically, right?
Specifically, and maybe even like, orgasms that are happening at the same, there can be all kinds of pressure and expectation put on, oneself about that. But I think especially for women, that it's like, okay, if I don't follow through, like I'm failing somehow, I'm inadequate, like my body is not doing what it should be doing. And then that is really contributing to feelings of performance anxiety and pressure and anxiety, which is literally the antidote for sexual arousal. And your body cannot arouse when it feels pressured, when it doesn't feel relaxed. And so I think of being able to, if I could talk with the woman who sent in this question, I think I would say, I'm so sorry that happened. That's horrible. Like, that's so painful. That must have been scary and confusing. And then I think I would want to let her know that to pace yourself, take your time, and to give yourself permission that, and like when you're with your significant other, to really give yourself space to be attuned with where you are and what your body's feeling, and if it's feeling good, and slowing down if it doesn't, and going back to connection and communication, and letting that sense of connection and what feels good always be what is determining pace.
Totally. Let the body lead the way in those things. And if you're continuing to have, after, more than one experience of this nature, then you definitely want to reach out and get some help. Maybe a visit to a gynecologist to have a look at things, to see if structurally there's some things that are maybe causing you difficulty, connecting with a sex therapist to be able to answer some questions about your experience and background and the interaction between you and your spouse that may be contributing to what's going on. The good news about these kinds of difficulties is they're very treatable. They're not uncommon. And, we've developed approaches to treatment that we can understand what's going on, and we can put together a treatment protocol that will enable you to navigate through that and not have that be your experience, and unwind any kind of aversions or damage that has been created from the pain thus far. So it's not It's not a death sentence to your sex life.
Right. Yeah, totally. Not a life sentence. Even if some negative emotion has been paired, or if you've noticed, oh, now I'm having this anxiety towards sexually connecting, reach out for help. Very treatable. Yes.